Wow, that's gonna be expensive. I told her right up from the front, I am gonna be no help in the kitchen. So I'm like, you really need some people that can really help you if we really want to get it done.
It's like 3 hours away, and you have to do like 2 hours of cooking and like an hour of preparation and then like an hour of shopping. So 8 o'clock, it should be ready.
Exactly. We'll have dessert first.
It was like, we really need to have their whole family over all at once so that they can see it, so that we don't leave anyone out.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, March 14th. One question that comes up repeatedly from all of you is about the Duggars and whether or not they're going to get a brand new show, or if TLC is really done with the Duggars. I have had very mixed questions. Some of you are convinced that TLC is done with the Duggars, and others of you are not so convinced. I am at a position in my point right now that I don't believe that TLC is going to bring back the Duggars after what happened most recently. But there are clues online that could suggest that they're not totally done with the family. Why? Well, Counting On is still available streaming on Discovery Plus, and that has some fans believing that the Duggars might actually appear back on network. This comment was recently left on one of my posts because Samantha B, she has a late night show on cable, talked about the Duggars, about how they were dropped by TLC, not the first time people found out about what Josh had done, but 7 years after the fact. She said this: TLC didn't officially part ways with the Duggars until last year, 7 years after we first learned about Josh Duggar's history. Duggar now faces up to 40 years in prison, or hopefully 40 years and counting. Those were her that's her quote, and that's what she shared on her Instagram. One of my commenters said, a lot of their stuff is still on Discovery Plus, so I don't even think they have fully cut ties. You can still watch every episode on Counting On, though through their streaming service. And then I said, I believe they've cut ties. And she continued, said, personally, I think that they should remove it from all of their platforms. And someone responded, they should. This family does not deserve any type of platform. And then someone else also said, I absolutely agree with you, Leah. You are absolutely right with this. So it is true that Counting On is still on Discovery Plus, and you can watch all of the seasons there. On TLC's website, though, you cannot find Counting On. Though, if you search the Duggars, you can find videos that they've made. So they have not completely removed all traces of the Duggar family. When you go on to the search tab on TLC and you put in Duggars, if you click on it, it shows videos, and then when you click on the videos aspect of it, it pops up with short videos of 3 pages of videos that are available to watch, along with people and their like profile. Michelle Duggar is linked with her page, sort of like what her Pinterest is, her Facebook, and her Twitter. And then features includes a bedroom makeover that Jana did, and something that they did on the Valentine's Day for traditions. So the Duggars are still on TLC's website, and they haven't removed them. When TLC put out a statement from the family, when Josh was arrested, they said this in June of 2021. TLC will not be producing any additional seasons of Counting On. TLC feels it's very important to give the Duggar family the opportunity to address their situation privately. So they said they were not going to be producing additional seasons of Counting On. That was something to me where I was like, okay, they're not going to do different seasons of Counting On. Will they revamp it and do another show? And would they do another show with a rebrand of, say, the younger kids? Or would they do another follow-up? I mean, If we're being completely honest here, TLC could make a ton of money by having a show where they talked about what happened, if they interviewed Anna. If they're still under contract with TLC, they could very well make tons of ratings if they did a show with the Duggars addressing the issues at hand. Or they could totally cut ties. I don't know what direction they plan to go. It has been more than a year that they've been on air. When the Duggars announced the cancellation of the show, they said that they were like moving on. And the Duggars have not posted publicly very much at all since Josh's conviction. And they haven't been interacting much on their social media. They are, I believe, under contract at least for a year, maybe longer, following the cancellation. The last season or the last show episode aired in March of 2021. So they've been off air for 1 year. When Josh's first scandal hit, they were not off the air for very long, only 6 months. Within that time, they completely rebranded the show, and instead of it being called 19 Kids and Counting, it went to Counting On, and it was going to follow the stories of Jessa and Jill. Now that the older kids are sort of independent of all of this and the family is dealing with such a huge issue, I don't think that you could continue on the same breath as doing something on Counting On. I also think that it's a very different climate than it was back then. There's a lot that's come out recently about the IBLP that has not been favorable to the Duggars, and there's been pending docuseries that have been discussed, multiple. In fact, there's going to be one that is supposed to be covering the survivors of Gothard, and then there's another separate one on Amazon that is supposed to be uncovering all things Duggar, a docuseries, kind of like the Lula Rich one. There's also been articles put out by NBC noting the teachings and the Duggars standing behind the teachings of the IBLP and saying that while they don't support everything that they've heard or learned from them, they still find the teachings valuable. With Josh's conviction, I also think it's important to remember that that Up TV abruptly canceled the Bates after they had filmed an entire season. I don't know at this point in time that anyone is really interested in a series that is a fake Duggar family, or doing what they did on Counting On, where it was staged and you showed only the good side of the family. This was a reality show very different than other reality shows. They didn't show the fights or the arguments ever. Can you recall a time on TLC where you saw a series where families weren't fighting or there wasn't certain drama? Can you? Think of 90 Day Fiancé. You see a lot of fighting, a lot of drama. Think of all the other shows that have families. I mean, even you see drama and arguments on Doggard, and you see arguments on the Doricos, and you certainly see all kinds of arguments on Welcome to Plathville. You see none of that on the Duggars. So I don't think in the current climate, a show would ever exist where they weren't being real. And I don't believe they can come back on air with this fake sort of sanitized version of their beliefs, ignoring all other facets of their lives, ignoring all other conflicts, and only wanting to show the good side. The show had to end not just because of what happened with Josh, but because it was not true anymore. It was never true. And Josh's arrest showed the lies that they had been perpetuating on the public for such a long time. Jim Bob lied and said that there was nothing that happened, that he called the investigation in November 2019 fake news. He said that no one in his family was under investigation to his knowledge. He denied that there had been any federal people at his business, at his house, which might have been true, but he completely ignored the fact that they were at Josh's building, at Josh's property, and that Josh was interviewed and under investigation. That was not true when he said that. And he knew then, back then, he knew all of it. I spoke to a source who flat out told me Jim Bob knew that Josh was under investigation when he wrote that statement. Jim Bob knew that Josh's business had been the target of the investigation, that Josh had been interviewed, that other people were being interviewed. He knew. And he put out a statement publicly and he lied. He was doing so to save the show, which is something he had done repeatedly over the years, time after time after time, to save the show, because to Jim Bob, the show had to go on. It was more important that the show go on than to actually tell the truth. And I don't think that Jim Bob has an interest in being honest or showing the tough times or the struggles the family goes through. Seeing an argument between Jim and Michelle. Have we ever seen one on TV? Never. Seen arguments between the kids recently? No. You don't see it because they show you such a vanilla, we're going to God. Not to mention the dangerous aspect of the fact that the Duggars use their platform to promote for the IBLP. So then the question remains is, with this docuseries coming out with an expose that's supposed to expose Gothard and the documentary around his victims, you can't bring the Duggars back. And if you do, you're standing by the cult and not the victims, and you're clearly showing that the profits are more important. And more importantly, the public isn't going to buy the Duggars in any other context anymore. They're not going to get the ratings unless you actually are honest, and I don't see them being honest. And you don't want to give them a platform on a huge level, because then they can recruit for their cult. And do you want them to recruit for their cult, or do you just miss the kids? Because the sad fact is that even the adults are part of this cult. If by supporting them and watching them and doing these things and listening to their tips and tricks on parenting, you're indirectly supporting the cult and their belief system. So when people fear, is TLC going to bring them back? I don't think they will. If they did, I don't think that it would go very well. I wouldn't be surprised if they did bring them back, but I don't know. They've said they wanted the Duggars to handle this privately, and they actually removed Counting On from their website, which is unique. Like other series you can find once they're canceled on TLC's website. So that's just my hot take, and I hope that we don't see them on a reality show anymore, because the fact is it wouldn't be truthful. What are your thoughts about this? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.